90+2 podcast. Sammy St.Jean, Jeremy Striano. You know the drill by now. We're back in a rhythm of things in what I think is a nice little rhythm, a 2 episode thing. I think it makes it a more digestible episode, makes it so we can actually talk about what we want to talk about. Don't have to speed through things too much, even though I started this episode talking very, very fast for no reason. Jeremy, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, Sammy. No, I'm kidding. No, we're
Just
we're doing good. Yeah, I'm kind of carrying over the positive vibes from last episode. We now have the draw for the round of 16 of the Carabao Cup, which was eventful on my end, watching it live in person. And thank God I wasn't live streaming it because I
yeah.
might have yelled a couple expletives
Hey, I
throughout
tried
the
to be a voice of
course.
reason for you. I tried to be a voice
You
of
did,
reason
you
for you.
did, but no, we're doing okay. We're back with Premier League action this weekend, and
Mhm.
yeah, the boys are buzzing. The Man U's looking a okay. We got some players coming back from injury, and yeah, looks like we have a great weekend ahead.
Yeah, that we do. Let's start with the midweek stuff since obviously we record on Tuesdays. So we got a couple of the matches, but we'll round out that midweek stuff and then go into our weekend look ahead. And then we'd have some Champions League to get looking forward to as far as next week's is concerned. We kind of get back into stuff. Already, Jeremy, a lot of these games were a little better than I thought. We predicted some upsets. Some of the upsets went our way, some of them did not. Liverpool held strong, 3-1 over Leicester City. Gakpo, a name I am still learning how to pronounce. Zolza, oh, geez, Zobozlai. Zobozlai.
Zobashlai, yeah.
It is a mouthful. Like I can read it when I'm looking at
He's
it, but when
where's
I'm
he
getting it,
from? Hungary?
I
Is
think
he
it's
Hungarian?
Hungary. I think he's Hungarian. Jota, the 3 goal scorers for Liverpool. Much easier to say. Thank you, Diogo Jota. And then Mkhitaryan actually in the 3rd minute for Leicester gave them the lead. One Leicester fan I know was buzzing for all of 10 minutes. Then Blackburn, they're going to move on 5-2 over Cardiff City. West Ham 1-0 over Lincoln City. Thomas Suchek in the 70th minute. But oddly enough, West Ham were outshot 15-14 in that one. Chelsea score a goal. It's a mirror. Chelsea
It's
scored.
Jackson too.
It was Jackson over Brighton as well. I don't think either of us predicted that.
Oh,
So I think my reasoning was I'm not picking Chelsea until they score. Well, they scored. All right, Chelsea.
hey.
Well in 61% percent. Oh my God, English is a hard language for me today.
It's a very hard language.
61% possession for Brighton. Too many P's there. 13-9 in terms of and 4-2 in terms of shot advantage as well. Bournemouth 2-0 over Stoke City. Arsenal 1-0 over Brentford, an 8th-minute goal, and then they just pretty much outlasted Brentford. Everton, which is one upset that I did have, was 2-1 over Aston Villa. Calvert-Lewin, the decider in the 50th minute. Kamara had one in the 83rd for Villa, but just not enough. Everton looked pretty good on the counter. Fulham 2-1 over Norwich City. That was an upset that I thought would happen that didn't. And Newcastle 1-0 over Manchester City. Another upset that neither of us had. Isak with the 53rd minute goal. I will say City really never seemed to go for this one in full City force when you don't play Walker, Diaz, Holland, Ederson at all, and then Foden, Nunez, and Doku all just come off the bench. You're only going for it so much, whereas Trippier was the only big face for Newcastle that didn't play. So out of all these fixtures, there's no Man U. Obviously, there's no Tottenham. So what really catches your eye here out of the matches that took place yesterday?
So again, I love when teams respond to being down. I think one of uh, one of Manchester United's key attributes from last season, their first season under Eric Ten Hag, was they had a lot of comeback wins. They were down and then would just find ways to just score. What I saw from Liverpool against Leicester, like going down early, is like a real stinger, and especially like within the first 10 minutes. Nevertheless, three, seeing their big guns come up. I mean, apart from Mohamed Salah, but seeing Gakpo assigning that has just try to find that like Liverpool identity that they've longed for. Seeing him come in and just score a goal, and Diogo Jota has been a real integral part of that front three. I think when he came over from Wolves, it's just been a real perfect fit for him. I think this system of Jurgen Klopp and a real pacey front is just perfect for him. And I loved those Wolves teams of a few years ago, when Raul Jimenez was there, or when he was just controlling up top and Jota was there as well. Seeing them just pull out a 3-1 win over a quality team, a team that I think will find its way back to the Premier League sooner rather than later, is always a positive result. Chelsea, finally, right? Let's see if this translates to Premier League play. Advancing into this competition is a big step for them. I think a trophy for them. It's not as long of a drought as a Tottenham drought, but and I don't mean that as a dig. I really don't.
It just is what it is.
No, it just is. And I think
Yeah.
Chelsea, are trying to find something. They've invested so much into this club. They're trying to rediscover that identity. Like again, Chelsea in the early 2000s and mid 2000s, it was them and Man U. Like it was that was a heavyweight bout. And now these are two teams that are in the middle of the table in the Premier League and really have to just rediscover their identity through other competitions. And I do think that the Carabao Cup could be a Chelsea victory if they're able to find whatever there is they're finding. I like their team, I do, but this is a big start. This is a nice little check mark for them. They go to a championship competitor on Halloween when the round of 16 takes place. So they're not playing a Premier League team, a team as high of a caliber like Brighton. But I think that this could be a tournament where they can kind of rekindle the spark, the scoring. And yeah, it's one goal, but it's like a snowball. I really do think that the Chelsea snowball could be in effect through this tournament. And maybe it transfers over into Premier League play. Arsenal squeaking one out. I kind of expected an Arsenal win. Really was upset that Norwich didn't hold off. The Fulham win was big. I love Alex Iwobi. I really do. I feel like he's been playing in the Prem since at least I've been in like high school. I know he was with Everton or he was with Everton for a little bit, but now playing on a team um when he gets to call Craven Cottage home is a real fresh start for him. And I'm glad to see that, Fulham is one of those teams too where they have rediscovered their identity. Like when I was a youngster, Fulham were in the Premier League and they were a real threat. Like they were a mid to high. I wouldn't call them like obviously big six, but they were flirting around like that 7 to 12 range. And Craven Cottage is always just a really fun place to watch an away game. I just it looks so small, but that like brick around the exterior of the stadium is always just a fun little place. But now I'm really excited to see what happens on Halloween with the round of 16. So if you want to transfer or if you want to just make a little segue into the draw so we can inform everyone of the matchups if they
Just
don't
why
know.
you were so happy about the draw.
Yeah, I was pumped about the draw.
Thrilled. I'm going to preface this by saying the words of wisdom I tried to give Jeremy when he was frustrated about Manchester United's draw here was one, City's gone. And anytime City's out of a competition, your hopes of winning it drastically improve just because it's the best team, undoubtedly just not in the competition, which makes me even more frustrated that Tottenham's not in it. The other is that when you're in a competition like this, there are opportunities when you're going to play teams that aren't even in the Prem. And those are the matchups you want because you should be favored as a top six club, especially a Manchester United, Chelsea, etc., playing against a Blackburn Rovers like Chelsea is in the next round. You might end up like Manchester United playing a Newcastle, a really solid team. But if you're able to beat the really good teams early on, your later matchups will likely be easier because those good teams have fallen off. So those were the words of wisdom I tried to give Jeremy. But getting Newcastle is tough. Getting Newcastle as one of the best teams in the Premier League is tough. But Manchester United is at home, which is something that's favorable for them. Chelsea, home against Blackburn Rovers. Liverpool, one of the only, I would say, Liverpool and Arsenal, I would say, are the two favored teams that aren't traveling. That are traveling, that aren't the home team. So Liverpool on the road to Bournemouth, Arsenal on the road to West Ham, which is probably the second biggest matchup, I would say. Everton and Burnley is
That's a sneaky good
it's
match.
a cheeky good. I think that one could be fun. I think that could be a
Yeah.
really fun match. Um, then you're looking at Mansfield Town and Port Vale,
What a
Exeter,
banger.
yeah, Exeter City and Middlesbrough, Ipswich Town versus Fulham. So obviously West Ham, Arsenal, Man United, Newcastle are the ones you're keeping your eyes on. Everton and Burnley is one just I just feel like that's just gonna be a physical match. I feel like that's
Yeah.
just gonna be a fun watch. Um I want to hear which teams would you want to put on upset alert?
Whew. I would.
And I will preface this by saying I don't think Man U or Newcastle would be an upset. Either one's just would make
Yeah.
sense. And I think Arsenal is barely an upset because West Ham is a really good side.
Yeah. Chelsea.
See?
I think
Interesting.
Blackburn. Um, I think Blackburn after scoring 5 against Cardiff. Now, yeah, it's a championship game, but the only thing I don't like about that is that they're playing at Stamford Bridge, and that's a real tough
Mm.
place to play, especially when you're a team like Blackburn. Um, do I really want to? I don't know if I can pick them though. I really can't.
Okay.
I was just
I'm
trying to
gonna
find
t-
an upset.
I'm
Maybe
gonna talk
Fulham.
you out of this one. I'm gonna talk you out of this one solely because Blackburn has conceded 16 in the league already.
You know what? All right, I'm gonna go Ipswich at home against Fulham.
Okay,
I
that
can
one.
see I can see that as like because I think Ipswich are gonna make their
Mhm.
way up to the Premier League probably within the next like 3-4 years or so. And I think they've been steady in the championship. Like they've been okay. They're flirting. And I believe they're sponsored by Ed Sheeran. So that's also a plus. I think they have like they're the ones that have like the plus minus multiply divide tour or whatever they have going on there. Um that one, yeah, because I was gonna actually pick West Ham over Arsenal,
Yeah, I those two they're both really
but
good
they're
sides, so
both
you know what I
good.
mean.
But
It
yeah,
is it would be an upset,
yeah,
but
but
yeah, I think the one I also want to look at is I think although no one's going to really go out of their way necessarily to watch a League Two versus League One match, Mansfield Town and Port Vale could be fun. And you could see that fourth tier team in Mansfield Town make their way into the
if
quarterfinals.
Mansfield make the quarterfinals, oh my god,
There's this, realistically, too, Exeter City they're home against Middlesbrough.
yeah,
That's another one. That's a third tier League One team. You could see one fourth tier and one third tier English team making it into the quarterfinals, which would be exactly what these competitions are about. And that's also why the question we're really posing is who's going to get upset because that's what these competitions are about. Um, yeah, no, I for some reason I don't know what it is. I am so excited for that Everton Burnley match. Just Everton's finding some form. Vincent Company has Burnley looking really good, especially considering they were a newly promoted team. They've been really competitive in pretty much every match they've played as well, even against
yeah.
some of the bigger sides. That one I'm very excited about. So this should be a really interesting round of 16. Let's quickly round out the rest of the midweek stuff, and then we'll get into our preview.
Real quick, Sammy,
Oh, go ahead.
you actually have made me realize the fact that I think Man U are gonna win this game. So you were
Okay.
trying to like give me like words of wisdom. I'm looking at it right now, and this game is a month away. This game is about 4 weeks away. Halloween, I forget what date it falls on. I think it's a midweek, right? Like it's gotta be like a Wednesday or something like that. Real quick here, it's a Tuesday. So it's Tuesday, October 31st, and I think Man U will come out on top because of the fact that, yeah, it's a month away. But in this span of almost like 2 weeks, you've seen a team score 3 goals away at Bayern Munich. You've seen a team dig deep and find a win at Turf Moor at Burnley. And now you've seen a team who have defeated Crystal Palace in this competition that they are defending. Now everyone forgets that. Man U, like some, well, I shouldn't say everyone. Some people forget that Man U are the defending champions of the Carabao Cup. So I think that Ten Hag wants to just win as many competitions as possible, as any manager should. I think that this is going to give them time, barring any scary injury, because we don't know, luck or bad luck at that, what could happen. You're going to get your full strength back apart from Luke Shaw. So then that'll be the only person out by then. Varane's slowly coming back. Mason Mount's back now. They're not starting yet, but they're slowly becoming substitutes and playing a little bit, 20, 30 minutes a game. By the next week or two, they'll be playing full strength and be playing every day. Now what you have Amrabat, who's just been an absolute banger. You have Casemiro on old form. The only thing that worries me is with this team, and it'll still worry me until another striker gets brought in, is goals. Where will these goals come from? They're coming from Bruno. He's a distributor also. They're coming from Casemiro, which is like Casemiro has been on an absolute tear. So with your wisdom, and I think that they'll get a generous draw if they beat Newcastle. And coming in as a home, it should be like a slight favorite by then because they're at home. I'm not trying to deny, like, Newcastle's still a great team, but hey, they were the team that Man U defeated in the final of the Carabao Cup last year. Now, sure, they've gotten better because they're a Champions League team now. They've gotten more money and they brought in more players, but so have we. And I just think that this is a must-win game for Man U, and I don't think they'll disappoint.
I think the one thing working against Manchester United is 2 days earlier they play Man City, which is never easy. The thing that also works against Newcastle is in a similar light. Listen to the schedule they have through the early part of December. So their next match is Burnley, which is, we just talked about how they've been fighting for them. This is starting now through December.
Oh, okay.
So they just have an onslaught on their schedule. So this is just, they're not going to have necessarily more than 1 or 2 off days or I don't want to say off because you're playing the Premier League teams. It's not really off, but you know what I mean. Like you're playing really good sides. Burnley, tough on September 30th. Then you go PSG, West Ham, Crystal Palace, which is just, not the hardest game on their schedule. Dortmund.
What?
Wolves.
What?
Which is their other one. And then you see Man United. They have Arsenal the game after. Then they go Dortmund, Bournemouth, Chelsea, PSG, Man U in the league, Everton, Tottenham, Newcastle.
Ew.
That is an outrageously tough schedule. And then after Luton Town and Nottingham Forest, they have Liverpool and Man City back
Tottenham,
to back.
Newcastle?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Milan.
Okay.
Yeah, Milan.
They're playing themselves.
They're playing it pretty much. So that is just an outrageously tough schedule. And then to kind of end December, start January, you have Liverpool, Man City. So collectively, their schedule over the next few months is going to be the toughest portion of their schedule.
Yeah, they need to stay as healthy as possible. Like, they just need to just play quality soccer, which they can, but just they just have to stay healthy because their depth is going to have to come big, especially in these cup games and in sometimes in Champions League. Sometimes what I love about the game itself is that these games can be won by a substitute. These games can be won in the last minutes of a game. One kick of the ball, one head of the ball. So it's just going to be those guys that you're going to try to squeak out as many points as possible. And it's a gauntlet. And this is where I favor Man U because our schedule up until Man City and Newcastle is, to me, is not as strong as that one.
I would argue that's probably the toughest out of anyone that I've seen, at least.
Yeah. I haven't seen like Arsenal's or Liverpool's yet, but that's tough. That group itself, we knew that coming in.
Makes it
that
harder,
Champions League group is very hard, yeah.
But that's also where you make a point where a signing like Anthony Gordon could come up big as a substitute, or this also will set them up for how much does Newcastle need to spend in January. I think you'll know exactly how solid or lack thereof their depth is. All right, let's quickly round out the midweek stuff here. Serie A, Milan grabs a 3-1 win over Cagliari. Okafor, Tamori, and Loftus-Cheek score. My point last episode was that we don't know where Milan's goals are coming from when it's not Leao. They respond 3 different goal scorers, so well in for them. Atalanta 1-0 over Verona. Atalanta is now in fourth. Napoli 4-1 over Udinese. Osimhen 39th minute goal among 4 different goal scorers for them. So you see him there despite the drama off the field, kind of with that TikTok stuff. Sassuolo 2-1 over Inter, which was kind of the surprise result of the midweek. Dumfries with the goal for Inter. And then Berardi with the winner for Sassuolo. And then Lazio 2-1 over Torino. Any of those stand out? I mean, obviously Sassuolo over Inter is a big one. But Sassuolo has been picking up a couple results lately. And again, you're kind of seeing the parity in some of these leagues that you expect to have, I don't know, clear-cut winners. You're seeing some more upsets show up towards the top of the table.
Yeah, I mean, this is where does Inter respond, right? So this is their first really negative mark of the season, going 5-0
Their
in
first
league
loss
play.
in the league, yeah.
First loss ever, or ever, I shouldn't say ever on the season. But they have a couple they have a winnable game this weekend against this one's always giving me trouble, especially in FIFA. Salernitana. Am I saying that right? It's the one with like the seahorse on it. You know what I'm talking about?
If anyone who listens to this show has learned anything, it's don't ask Sammy for help pronouncing anything.
But they do have Benfica coming up in the final, which will be a big result. But I believe because they're on top, right? Yeah, that'll be at the San Siro, which kind of favors them. It'll be a tough place for Benfica to kind of walk into looking for 3 points. So how does Inter respond? I do think they'll be okay. They've had this identity. Look, they're strong. They're a strong club. They're the runners up for a reason. You know what I mean? Everyone's kind of like giving them like, I still I like AC Milan. I like following them and I like their roster a lot. But even then, I've been like, I remember I kept ragging on their midfield. Like, where's their midfield coming from? Where's their creativity coming from? Inter, I love the balance of Inter's lineup, even when losing a player like Andre Onana to Manchester United, losing that real distributor of a goalie. But I think they'll be okay. I think, they weren't going to have a perfect season. It's hard for a team to go undefeated. It's only happened a few times, talking about like the Invincibles of Arsenal. I don't know.
We don't even have to acknowledge that if you don't want
No,
to.
yeah. I'm trying to think of when the last time has an Italian team ever done it. It could have been a Milan team. I just don't know like if any in Serie A have gone unbeaten. But big win for Sassuolo. This is one where they could feed off of, and they can say, hey, we can beat anybody on any given day. And again, this just proves your point that Serie A might be the second most competitive league in the world. And I know you're a big proponent on that. I know you're a big fan of Italian soccer. You're getting into Dutch soccer too, which Dutch soccer is always fun.
I don't know that. Wild. Though the flares on the field did
the flares on the field are a little. Yeah, but I mean, Italy's also had some racist chants towards, as well. But no league is perfect, I guess. But in terms of the play, in terms of Inter Milan, I think they'll be okay. It's just a minor setback that I think they'll cruise and they will look to get 3 points. I think they'll end up getting 3 points over Benfica next week.
Just did a quick Google search for you to get your result. Both AC Milan and Juventus have accomplished that.
Oh, the unbeaten streak?
Yeah.
Okay.
Juventus went, I think it was 23-15-0. Wow. Most recently, I think it was 2012.
That's a lot of draws.
I know. So, I mean, the best team find a way to get a point. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the best example of it. But okay, let's move on to another country, and that country is Spain.
Oy.
So La Liga, the only other one that had much going on here in the midweek. It was really sick because Bundesliga didn't really have anything. It was kind of so we look at Girona, who is in first.
Who's unbeaten in 7 games.
Top of the league, 2-1 win over Villarreal. Villarreal is always a good side. Real Madrid do also win. They get a rebound win. Diaz and Joselu, the goal scorers there for Madrid. Athletic Club, a 2-2 draw, hold on to fourth place. And then Atletico Madrid are currently playing right now, are up 1-0 over Osasuna, thanks to Antoine
Two
Griezmann.
nothing now.
Is it 2-0 now?
Yeah. Rodrigo Riquelme. 2-0 5 minutes ago.
But Alvaro Mata does have a red card. I do not see. So that's
Bomb.
Atletico Madrid are always just a weird team, man. There's just the
Yeah.
weirdest things happen to that club. But these are the results here. I do want to, for the most part, save our comments for the matches coming up because I feel like a lot of what we're going to want to say about La Liga is about their upcoming schedule.
Yeah.
And we can kind of start there for our look ahead, which is what we're going to do next. So unless you have any comment on these matches specifically, we can jump right into that preview because I think these matches that we're looking at coming up are what I'd want to talk about more than anything else.
No, the only thing I'm just gonna say, and it's just a little teaser for like 5-10 minutes from now. Girona is my must-watch game of the week coming up, so keep that on the back burner.
And it's a teaser for less than 5 minutes. Actually, a teaser for right now. Girona, Real Madrid, 1 versus 2 is going to be the headliner there in Liga. Catch it on ESPN Plus. I know you all have it. Everyone's got ESPN. Barcelona, Sevilla. It's the 3 versus 12, but again, it's Barcelona, Sevilla, the kings of the Europa League. So Barcelona, Sevilla, they always have some quality. They always put up a fight. Real Sociedad and Athletic Club is a 6v4 match. And then Atletico Madrid, and should they hold on to their current result, which it seems like they will up 2 goals late in the match, are going to hold on to 5th, and they'll play Cádiz, who are 9th. All right, Girona, Real Madrid. Let's hear it, Jeremy.
Oh my God. Like, I never thought I'd have Girona in my must-watch game of the week. And this is, I mean, obviously, Man U Crystal Palace will be on, but this one is just
This one's at 12:30 though.
This one is at 12:30.
If you're not watching Liverpool Tottenham, I would throw it on.
This might be the biggest game, and I'm not just saying this to be like, oh, like kind of suspense. Now, it's funny because every poll, every predictor will have Real Madrid as a favorite, even though Girona are 6-1-0 because of who Girona has played. If Girona can find a way to get a point out of this game, because they are home, the scenes would be unreal. And who do they even have? I know they have like Eric Garcia, who was like a real big center back prospect like years ago. Oh man, they have Daley Blind, United legend, former Dutch national team player.
But I don't think anyone's looking at this roster and saying Daley Blind, that's your league winner.
No, it's not.
You know
He's
what I
not.
mean?
He's older. He's well older.
Yeah.
Man, if I could be a fly on the wall in this stadium come Saturday, I'm sure it's going to be buzzing. And if they score, this place is going to go bonkers. So, I don't know what the result's going to be. Although we both snubbed Atleti, and Atleti beat Real 3-1. I don't know what's going to happen with this match, but I'm invested, and I'm in 110%.
As much as I agree with that point, we also were. I feel like that's going to ignite Real Madrid. That loss, if you lose a Madrid derby as Real Madrid,
yeah,
I feel like that's going to light a little fire. And that's their next big league game. Girona, probably coming into the season, they might not have expected that. But that's their next big league game following that derby defeat. They didn't really have to go full force in in the most recent midweek game against Las Palmas. So I feel like as much as I would love to see an upset here or Girona grab a point, I feel like we're going to see a very strong Real Madrid. Their one weak spot is they have a lot of injuries in the back. You saw Alaba and Militao leave the last game with an injury. And so this one's a situation where although Real Madrid will probably find their own ways to score goals, there is concern about, whether they'll be able to keep Girona from scoring. I think that's where my concern for them comes.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment.
All right. So let's jump back over to the Serie A. 3 matches that I'm keeping my eye on over there. It's Napoli and Lecce. Didn't expect that one to be necessarily one you're keeping your eye on, but it is. These have been very good in the season. It's a 5v6. Milan and Lazio is another big match that you always got your eye on. Lazio, not where you'd expect them in necessarily in the table, but still a really good side as always in the Champions League for a reason. And then Juventus and Atalanta. If you're turning on any of these matchups, tell me why it's Juventus and Atalanta. Or do you disagree with me?
I kind of disagree.
Okay. Tell me what.
I'm gonna go Milan Lazio because I think this is an opportunity for Lazio to just kind of like dig deep and just look for a point here. They're in a big enough hole where they're like, we've seen Lazio contend for that like top spot. I mean, they're in
were they second last year?
Yeah, they're in European competition for a reason, right? Like they're a Roman team. Like they play in the shadow of the Colosseum where some of the greatest warriors have ever come through. They're now going into their own version of another Colosseum, the San Siro, which is one of the biggest and one of the most iconic venues in all of world football. It's also one of my favorite color matches, red against blue. I love a red against blue match. Although Atalanta Juventus, that's 3-4. That's a solid matchup. Or if you're a fan of FIFA, Bergamo Calcio, because Atalanta's name isn't used in EA
Yeah, because they don't have the rights.
They don't have the rights. So these are two great games. I wouldn't mind flip-flopping between both of them. I love Juventus. I love the way they play. I love everything that's been going on in Torino for the last couple of years. But I don't know. Something's just drawing me to Christian Pulisic playing at the San Siro against a Lazio team that could just, if Milan get all 3 points, that hole gets a little bit, further down for Lazio.
So when you're looking at Milan, because this is a team that's been in general pretty inconsistent, what do you think would be one player on that roster? And I'm going to say not Christian Pulisic, just because we have a certain bias towards Christian Pulisic.
Right.
And not Rafael Leao. What player do you think could have the biggest benefit or biggest push on this team improving the results that they're getting? Because obviously the 3-1 over Cagliari is a jump in the right direction. But this team in general has struggled to find goal scoring, has not had the best of results, and a 5-1 against Inter is, I think, the big, staple of that. What do you think is the player that really could step up and make a difference for AC Milan?
I mean, my easy answer is Giroud, just because of how I think he's class. I still think like he plays for the French national team for a reason, with Mbappe, with all these great players. I don't know. I mean, because again, I'm not a fan of their midfield. And obviously, like the midfield, it starts there. Like they have to get the ball forward. But like, am I gonna really say, hey man, one guy you really need to just bank on this year is Ruben Loftus-Cheek? Like it's just like it just doesn't flow. Samuel Chukwueze, maybe. Like he's a real he's one of those pacey kind of players like a Leao, although I think Leao's definitely a little more clinical. Mm-hmm. Again, like I can go like Yunus Musa, but he's kind of more defensive. It's gonna be Giroud. Like if they can find Giroud, he's still capable of burying like 15 to 20 goals a season in Serie A. The guy ages like wine. He's a handsome fella, I'll tell you that. He's aging like a Napa region, whatever, Cabernet Sauvignon, whatever. No, but I still think he's a quality striker. There's a reason why he still gets called to Didier Deschamps' camp in France. And right. With a perfect head of hair.
Quickly, for the people at home, can you just say that one more time?
What, the wine?
Yes.
Cabernet Sauvignon.
I just need that one more time.
If you're a basic person, it's I want a Cab Sav. Like that's like what people say. It's either a Cab Sav or you say the whole name, just Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah, I just figured the people at home wanted to hear it one more time.
Oh God,
I also did.
Oh, so. It's great, and also it's also my favorite red wine. So That's good stuff.
So the player I was going to bring up is I was trying to figure out where Benacer was. I know
Mm-hmm.
he was a mid. I don't know the deal with him, so that's someone I'm going to do a little research on following this kind of this episode.
Yeah.
But Alessandro Florenzi was the player that I was going to bring up as the player to watch for AC Milan. Is just again someone who could really I should say, hopefully come in and boost that midfield a bit. Because again, if Ruben Loftus-Cheek is your most recognizable name in your midfield, you are in a sticky situation.
Yeah, and it's hard to pick like a defender or a goalie. Mike is just a solid goalie, and you have like a center back like Fikayo Tomori on your back line. He's a real absolute anchor.
They have Kair and Theo Hernandez. So I do have to throw in one final thing about the Serie A that I almost overlooked. It was Roma, who lost 4-1 to Genoa. And if you open up the Serie A table and scroll all the way to the bottom, Roma is now just 2 spots above relegation after 6 match weeks. They have 5 points. They are now just 2 points clear of 18th. And Jose Mourinho is off to his worst start in his career. And I believe this is also the worst start in Roma's history as well in terms of Serie A. Or at least that's just a statement he recently made about the match that they lost. So I didn't want to overlook that. And I wanted to say, Jeremy, on a scale of 1 to 10, how worried about Roma are you?
I'm gonna go right dab in the middle and say 5 because I think this can go one of either two extremes. One, they fail to make any competition, whether that's Europa, Champions League, Conference League, whatever, or it's a really big redemption story from a manager that we know can take a team and take them to arguably the promised land. I know I'm a Catholic and I know that Moses took, the Israelites to the promised land, but can Jose Mourinho really take Roma and find success after this horrific start? It's still possible. I still think he's a quality manager, but the numbers don't lie. This is an alarming start. The beauty of it is that there's a lot of season left. Like I've seen, I take everything back to just me being a fan of United. I've seen United start the year, 8, 9, 10, and finish in the top four. And I know Roma and Man U were two completely different teams, two completely different systems. But I'm gonna say just don't panic right now on Mourinho. Like don't do like what some teams do, and once they see it one negative start, they go, okay, let's just cut the manager right there. Don't do that. Let this play out. Let this season play out. Let's get to the holidays and see where they are. There is a possibility, and we've said this is a reason why this league is so competitive. They can easily climb out of this and find their way back. I think they're still going to be relevant in the Serie A. If you ask me in about right before the new year where I see Roma, where are they now exactly? Were they 9?
16th.
16. Wow. Oh man.
They are 2 points clear of relegation, like the of 18th.
Okay. I could see them in about 2 months being around 12th, like right where Lazio are. Like I still think like there's too much quality for them to, finish in the relegation spot. Even we always make jokes like, oh, maybe Chelsea get relegated. There was no way Chelsea were getting relegated last season. These teams have money, these teams have quality players for a reason. These teams have great managers for a reason. But again, I'm putting it right in the middle because it can either go one way or the other, in my opinion.
Yeah, a team with Lukaku, Dybala, Spinazzola, Paredes, Mancini, Aouar, El Shawari. Like, they have a lot of talent. They should be doing far better than they are. Okay, let's go over to Germany. 3 matches I got my eyes on over there. Dortmund and Hoffenheim, a 6v5. Bayern and Leipzig, the match of the week over there in the Bundesliga. And then Leverkusen and Mainz isn't necessarily a match I'm going to have on, but I'm going to be paying attention to the result because if Bayern Leipzig is super close and or Bayern drops points, Leverkusen will go to the top of the league. And should even that game be super close and a Bayern win, Leverkusen, should they take care of business against Mainz, could go top on goal differential. So, Jeremy, if we are looking here, I don't think either of these matches necessarily need an overly in-depth discussion from us, but more want to ask you in terms of, do you think Leverkusen have a better chance because we saw what Dortmund did last season. They pushed them to the last week. Do you think Leverkusen have a better or worse chance of beating Bayern in terms of the title race than Dortmund did last season?
Oh man, that's tough. Because we're only a few weeks into the season, but who's to say they can't, right? Like they're just on such great form right now. I love some of their players that can just some of their players are just ballers, right? Florian Wirtz is a baller. I love Jeremy Frimpong. I think seeing him along the right side, also a fellow Jeremy, even though he spells it a little differently. Spells it Jeremie, which is a fun way to say. I've never even seen that spelling before. Who's to say they can't? Because I think a team like Leverkusen have a little less. This is gonna sound a little like, but when you look at Bayern, you kind of assume that okay, Bayern's Dortmund have to be Bayern's number one contender, right? For Leverkusen, it's like all they have to do is just play quality football. They've been doing that for the past couple of weeks now. Then again, there is a lot of football left. So maybe it isn't Leverkusen that's contending for the title. Maybe it is RB Leipzig for some reason. Maybe it's another team. Maybe it's Stuttgart. But I think Leverkusen have a lot more quality than Stuttgart, like longer term. I'm talking like in terms of, deeper competition. Who's to say that they can't make a run? They're, Goliath has to be slayed sooner rather than later. That's they can only be so dominant, right? I love Bayern. I love everything about Bayern. I love their culture. I love their fans. I love their arena. I love their team. I love their striker, number 9, Harry Kane. But yeah. But why not? They're quality right now. They're quality.
And Florian Wirtz, very fun to watch, very fun player for them. And just one player who was recently in a title chase joined their side, and Granit Xhaka. So maybe he's adding a little bit of an influence in terms of the way to handle yourself, because it was in a title chase that fell short. He knows what happens in a locker room when things start to turn sour too. So should Leverkusen, the honeymoon phase at the start of this season end for them, he might be a voice of reason because he just saw the same thing happen for Arsenal in terms of watching it slip through their fingers. So he could be someone that helps them not only on the field, but just in terms of the mental side of things. How do you stay mentally tough enough? Because not only do you have to have a quality team and play well, you have to be very mentally tough to just see out a full season, consistently stay in a title chase, let alone a title chase against a monster like Bayern Munich.
And to my boys, Union Berlin, can we please win? It's been 3 matches in a row, 3 losses in a row is not good. All right, you're playing Heidenheim, newly promoted Heidenheim, I believe I might add. Please, for love of God, can we please contend? Like I don't want it to be like, oh, year 1 of Jeremy being an Union supporter and they're gonna finish at 14th. Please win. That's all I ask. There's quality there. Brendan Aronson, please come on and just be the Pennsylvania Messi that we all know and love. That's all. We can move on, Sam.
Pennsylvania Messi. Okay. Liga. 3 matches to, or I should say 2 matches to potentially circle. Brest and Nice is oddly your 1v2 in Liga. Just wanted to bring that up because, in all honesty, I don't know too many players on either of these sides, yet they're above PSG at the start of the season. Monaco versus Marseille is the actual match that from Liga, and that would be worth turning on.
Yeah.
And then PSG play Clermont Foot. So, yeah, 3 points for PSG.
Clermont Foot.
They're in last.
Okay. Farmers League.
Any comment, or are we?
No, I will say though, Monaco Marseille should be fun. I believe Monaco is the home team in that one, correct?
They are not. Oh, sorry, Monaco is. Sorry,
Monaco is the home team.
Yeah. Sorry.
Wait a second. Am I reading this correctly? Brest is first in league.
That's what I said. That's why I brought up Brest versus Nice. It's first and second, Brest and Nice.
Wow. Goodness gracious, man.
That's why I'm trying to give them a little more love is just
Oh,
because like there actually is a little parody going on right now in Ligue 1, surprisingly. And I mean
well,
they've beaten Lens. The only loss they have is to Marseille. They have a win over Lyon, who's always a decent side as well. So they have some decent wins. They play PSG close to that Halloween date. So they could still be top of the table after three more matches.
goodness
So
me. Man. All right. Up the mighty breast.
all right, let's head over to the Premier League. We'll round up this
Uh,
episode. So here I'm going to rattle off these the matches that are coming up in the Prem. Jeremy, you tell me what we're interested. Then we'll give our
mhm.
predictions for those three.
Yep.
Talk about a few brief storylines that are our favorite pundit and journalist and just person in general, Fabrizio Romano, has kept us informed on. And then I will ask you the all important question that I'm going to start weaving in here. We want a little fantasy,
Yes.
just because Premier League fantasy is very fun. I play myself, and I think it's something that someone getting into the Prem could really find a way to get interested in. And I like the way they do it on their app as well. Is your must start player of the week.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So here are the matches in the Prem. The three that we're going to be giving our predictions for, and we're going to have the same graphic on social media that we did. I'm going to eventually too try to be better about getting the video up in terms of our little comments here as well. So starting when we're giving our predictions, I'm going to include what we're saying with our kind of as a response to why we predicted right or wrong. So you kind of have what our
Nice.
justification was at the time,
Yeah.
and just in general, kind of getting used to that we're getting used to having two episodes, getting used to being more involved with this and not being at Syracuse. So trying to find a way to get more involved on social media, eventually start posting this stuff, possibly on TikTok and stuff. But one step at a time here with the podcast. Don't want to, we want this to one, be fun, something that's still fun for ourselves, but also something that is still informative for you all and still fun for you guys to listen to. So Brighton Villa, Man U Palace, and of course, the match of the week, I would say, in the Premier League, Spurs and Liverpool are the three matches we're going to predict. And then you go Arsenal, Bournemouth, Everton, Luton, which again, any match where Everton is in, just because of Dyche, kind of just like I consider
Of
turning it on.
Sean
Just
Dyche.
consider throwing it on. Newcastle, Burnley is also possibly a cheeky little game.
Yeah.
West Ham, Sheffield, Man City, Wolves, Brentford, Nottingham, and Fulham, Chelsea. So skip over the three we're going to talk about with our predictions. Out of the other matches, which are you looking at and why?
Okay. Well, Nottingham Brentford to me is one I just think is like just can be an absolute dogfight. That could be like a random like 4-3, 3-2, you know, all goal scoring, all excuse me, although I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Matty Turner clean sheet at home against Brentford. That's just one where I just like two
It's nice that
middle.
he doesn't wear an Arsenal kit because I can actually root for him now.
Yeah, I love Matty Turner. I think he's great. I think he's the best American goalie, obviously since Tim Howard has come through the ranks. I think he's way better than Zach Steffen in his prime. I remember when Zach Steffen got bought by Man City and then like just never played, went on loan to Middlesbrough and just didn't really pan out. But I don't know why. I love watching the game at City Ground. Nottingham, kind of a little rival with Man United. Like they're kind of like in the Midlands of England. Like they're in the middle, like central part. But I don't know. I like that matchup. I like seeing what Brentford can be without Ivan Toney. You know, that being like a real big, damper in their mood and trying to find scoring somewhere else. So I don't know. I like this one. I just think that this is an opportunity for Brentford to respond. You know, they've lost two in a row, one against Arsenal just recently, the other against an Everton team that, were just battling relegation last year. And now they're trying to just kind of keep their old standard alive. So Brentford are going to be hungry and they're going to look to find points on the road. And City Ground, again, is one of those places that just, there's a few places in the middle of the table where I'm like, oof. One of them is Turf Moor, I mentioned last week, and another one is City Ground. City Ground, like not the old Nottingham. Again, everyone forgets Nottingham were Champions Cup winners of Europe back God knows when. they were one of those teams, and I think that's my mid table clash of the week: the trees and the bees. I like that.
Now, before we get to our three predictions, I do want to ask you one more kind of long-looking question here. I know we're very early on, but our three newly promoted teams, Luton Town, Burnley, and Sheffield, all sitting on 1 point right now.
Mm.
If any of them are going to stay up in the Prem, is it Burnley? That's who I would probably say it would be. And if you disagree, who and why?
It's Burnley. I agree with you. I think that there's a motive with this club. They're they're really one of the only clubs that I've seen out of the they're the only club out of the three that I've seen like where there's just like so much passion behind it. Not only with like their investors and
Their
with like
manager.
manager, but just their culture. Burnley to me belongs in the Prem. Burnley is one of those that I just see like, yeah, Burnley. Like, like they're just they're just one of those mid table teams. Yeah, being on 1 point is very alarming, but again, this weekend could be one where it's a tough place. St. James is a very very tough place to play, especially when you're in 19th place on 1 point. Like when you're hungry, like looking for those points, you're not going to say like it's kind of like unrealistic, but like be like, oh hey, we're going to Newcastle. Let's get sure it can happen,
Yeah.
but Eddie Howe and Newcastle are just a real superb football club where I don't see it, like if this. Let's just say it like this, Sammy. If this game ends in a draw, we should just give Burnley the win. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this is one thing I do want to say, and why I think it is Burnley as well. Burnley have 1 point, and it was from a draw against Nottingham Forest. Their other four matches, so we mentioned they're playing Newcastle this week, who are a Champions League
Or
team.
Man U's one of them.
Man U is week 1. Then they played Spurs. Then they played Villa. Then they played City.
Yeah, that's a gauntlet.
Like, as a newly promoted team, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, like not like none of like Tottenham or Man U haven't played Luton yet, right?
No,
You played Sheffield.
I've played Sheffield.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm saying is Burnley have so much more to show. Like when they play those mid-table teams like Nottingham Forest,
Yeah.
just get through the cities, Villas, Spurs, and Man United, and now Newcastle. Get through that stretch of your schedule. There will be brighter days as a Burnley fan.
Yeah.
Absolutely will be.
Look out for like November, December to
Well,
see
because
like
like they start
more
October
wins.
with Luton Town. They start
Yeah.
October with. Well, they do have Chelsea after that, but it's Luton Town, Chelsea, Brentford,
And
Bournemouth, Palace.
at this rate, they can contend with Chelsea.
Hey, that's a point waiting to happen.
Yeah.
That's a nil. That has nil all written all over it. All right. So here we go. The three matches we're gonna predict. I'm gonna do Spurs, Liverpool last. I think we're actually gonna start with Man U Palace. Since you're a Man United fan, I'll give my prediction for this one first. So we saw 3-0 for Manchester United midweek here. I think Manchester United should have, I hope, gained a lot of confidence from that result. And I think you would probably agree with me on that.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of result could be big for them, especially going against the same team that you've just put 3 and Onana has back-to-back clean sheets now. I think that should be a lock as a win for Manchester United. I think you're going to see a little bit more from Palace. I don't think you're going to see back-to-back clean sheets because that's very, very hard to do against the same team. But I could see Manchester United scoring another 3 goals. So I'm going to go 3-1 Manchester United. And don't be surprised if Casemiro finds another goal because he's just finding goals lately.
Yeah. I was thinking 3-1, but I'm actually going to go.
If you want to agree with me, I'm going to
go.
You, you know? If Jeremy wants to look me in the eye and tell me he thinks I'm right, I'm not going to yell at him, I'm not going to be upset about it.
I'm going to go 2-1. I'm going to go 2-1 just because I think Crystal Palace are going to come out a little hungrier. I think they'll get the last goal. So I think Man U are going to go up 2 and then concede late. I like Bruno getting a goal here. And man, I like a Bruno goal. And I like a Rasmus Højlund goal. So I'm going to go 2-1 to the boys in red at home. 3 points.
Yeah, I can see that. The next one coming up is Brighton Villa. I'm gonna let you take the brunt of Spurs Liverpool before I go, so I'm gonna go first on this one again. Brighton Villa. This is a game where Brighton's coming off they're a really good side that almost always win on XG, but sometimes have weird results. And I feel like whenever they have a weird result, like a loss to Chelsea that I feel like they played better in and had more possession in, they're going to rebound in a proper way. So I feel like Brighton's going to come out on top over Villa. And don't get me wrong, Villa's a very good side, and I think this will be a very fun match to watch. And if you're not a Manchester United fan, this is the one to turn on. If you actually, it's not at the same time, it's a 7:30 a.m. match. So if you'd like to get up at 7:30, like I'm going to do for this match, worth doing. But I think that this one's gonna be one that Brighton wins. And I think this is going to be one where you see the likes of Mitoma getting involved, the likes of Ferguson getting involved. You see the real stars of Brighton that they continue to develop shine. And I feel like they're going to find a way to get the score is what I'm mentally struggling with.
Yeah, here. Score's hard.
I think I'm going to go 2-1 in this one. So 2-1 Brighton in this one.
So I'm looking at Brighton right now, and I'm looking at their Premier League games. I'm going to exclude the game against Athens. They put up 4 against Luton Town. They put up 4 against Wolves. They got 1 in a 3-1 loss against West Ham. They got 3 in a 3-1 win over Newcastle, 3 in a 3-1 win over Man United, and 3 in a 3-1 win over Bournemouth. How about 4 3-1 wins in a row for the Seagulls? I'm going Brighton 3, Villa 1 on the road.
All right. Then you take the lead now with Spurs and Liverpool.
All right. Well, this is a battle of 2 world-class managers. On one side, you have Ange Postecoglou, a Celtic FC legend, a man that I've known and loved for such. We love Big Ange. We sure do. We love Big Ange. If you guys are listening on Spotify, Sammy just has a whiteboard that says, "We love Big Ange."
And I mean,
on the other side is, to me, the man that I wish was the manager of Manchester United in Jurgen Klopp. The man has so much passion in his managerial style. It's a battle of 2 against 4 in the Premier League, and I don't know if I can pick a winner. Therefore, I'm going to go down the middle. I am going Spurs 1, Liverpool 1.
Fair. So obviously, Spurs fan, gonna believe in my club and what they've done, and they did really well against Arsenal. My one concern coming into this match is that they've had a few players pick up some knocks, and I'm not 100% sure about whether they're going to play. One of them being James Maddison, and that attack is very different without James Maddison. So I think if Tottenham are going to get a point, let alone a win, 1, Maddison plays, first of all. 2, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, especially if he doesn't play. But again, when you're playing against Liverpool, there's going to be goals. And I can't bank on Vicario to be world-class every single game. I would love to. And if he does, all the better. But he's far exceeded expectations, I would say, to start this season. And Liverpool are good. They really are. And last year was a serious down season for them. Just a real blip in the radar that just you can kind of just brush off at this point. Tottenham is at home, though. I think it's going to be back-to-back 2-2 draws. I think it'll be 2-2. I think that being at home is the biggest factor for that. I think if Maddison doesn't play and you're on the road against Liverpool, it's a loss. But I think being at home, having that crowd behind you, which I think would love the whiteboard that I just put together very quickly before we started the show. I do believe that Tottenham are going to find a way to get a point, and I think this is the difference between being the old Spursy and being in the new Tottenham. It's finding a way to get points against the good teams. I think Tottenham have a little ways to go before you're going to be saying, I'm going to favor them against an Arsenal, against a Liverpool, against a team like that. You need a little more time to develop under Ange. You need a little more time to a few more transfer windows. But I like what Tottenham can do at home. Hopefully grab a point and hopefully have James Madison play. So I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw.
That was my other result. I don't know if I can pick a winner here. The other result I was like looking forward, like I was looking at was 2-1 Liverpool. But again, like you guys are just on such great form. Like it's really hard to just flat out beat you at your own stadium.
This team has so much fight
We
this
tried
year.
and we failed. We tried and failed.
That's the one thing about Tottenham this year is they actually have a lot of fight. And that's what I love about them that they haven't had in the last few years. So that'll round that out. We'll give you a few more quick notes here about European football in general, give you Premier League must play in fantasy, and then we'll send you on your way to hopefully what is a wonderful weekend in both a Tottenham and Manchester United win. So here we go. A few notes here, Jeremy. Just bring up kind of discuss whatever suits your fancy here. But starting out, Bruno Guimaraes is close to completing his extension, according to Fabrizio. Most of these are according to Fabrizio Romano. Really, the only one you surefire can trust that I found. I mean, there's other trustworthy people in journalism and pundits across Europe and in particular in England. But Fab is the guy. Fab is the end all be all for a reason. So Bruno Guimaraes extension is close and going to include a release clause in the range of 100 million. If we do discuss this one, I want to say, do you think that release clause is a fair range for him? Kamavinga is also close to finishing up his extension. Fabrizio Romano says it's at around 99% complete. I'm not a math guy, but I believe that's 1% away from being completely done. Osimhen, there's a statement about the TikTok situation from Napoli. Basically, the general gist was it was not their intent, but the problem I had with the statement was at no point did they say we made a mistake or I'm sorry. It was that wasn't our intent. So people make mistakes, clubs make mistakes, social media teams make mistakes. Just say I'm sorry. It's really not that hard. It's really not. Just don't beat around the bush. No political talk. No, just I'm sorry. We shouldn't have posted this because it was something that was a little insensitive or that could offend our best player. Simple as that. The race for Ivan Toney is open. Brought him up a little earlier in this one as someone that Brentford doesn't have. Arsenal and Chelsea both confirmed to be informed on him, but I imagine there will be other top Premier League sides. And I imagine he's someone that's going to stay in the Prem. I wouldn't expect him to leave the Prem. So keep an eye out for Arsenal Chelsea because Chelsea will spend money on anyone. And he actually would be unfortunately, very good at Arsenal. Him and Jesus as your two striker option would be extraordinarily good for them. I would hate to see it, but it would be very, very good for them. In Spurs news, Ivan Perisic wrapped up his surgery just recently and is expected to take 5 to 6 months to recover. But he had a picture with his agent today that was on social media. And then Fabrizio Romano on the Men in Blazers podcast. I believe they were doing a live show with Fab. And he said, I think Griezmann could be the next superstar to try this opportunity in the MLS. He didn't necessarily go into like when he thinks this is exactly going to happen. But one, I would just be incredibly happy that I would be able to see Griezmann play, just possibly in person. But the other being that where would he play? And my one other thing to say about this is, can New England get rid of turf? Because no one's going to play for New England turf. Everyone get rid of turf. But for now, in terms of this, can New England get rid of turf? Because I want Antoine Griezmann within a 2 hours drive for me. That'd be really nice. Jeremy, go ahead.
So I have 2 points. Two things I really want to discuss. Number one is Ivan Toney. I wouldn't mind Ivan Toney in a strike force at Manchester United. I think he can be a starting striker on Manchester United at this point. I really do think he's so quality. I just don't think with everything going on with Sancho and
He
Anthony,
has not been linked to them yet.
no. And I won't be surprised like I wouldn't be surprised if he does eventually get linked to Manchester United because I think we're just linked to everybody at this point.
Realistically, he could get linked to Tottenham too because they never went out and got a 9. And if Richie doesn't really find a form to be a pure starter, he could be someone that say Tottenham's sitting in the top 2 or 3 still. Like, I understand he probably is looking for Champions League football, but then when you're looking later on the road when that January transfer window, every team is going to be in a different situation.
Yeah. I love him. I think he's a great player. The second thing is, excuse me, Sammy. I'm gonna go get something and I'm gonna make my pitch. Give me 1 second. You keep entertaining everybody till I get back.
All right, you're gonna hand it off and make me entertain the people. All right. Well, I'll kind of get into the fantasy situation a little bit while Jeremy's. I have no idea where he's going. The fantasy situation in terms of the player to watch. I'll give my player to watch. Jeremy will give his after. It looks like he's back. I'll actually let him do that. So we're doing it at the same time. Jeremy, are you? What do we? Yeah, Red Bulls. Okay.
So Antoine, look, pal. There's more MLS teams than Miami and LA. We are not in New York, even though our name says New York. This is New Jersey. New Jersey is a state that is built on character. It's built on Taylor Ham, and it's just built on attitude. And that is something that the Red Bulls has lacked since the departure of Thierry Henry. It would be an honor if you could take this shirt and wear it. Maybe definitely not next year, but like in the next 2 or 3 years, when I hopefully have season tickets and I get to watch you play every single home game, and I get to watch you bag goals against New York City FC, and I watch you make Smurfs cry. Antoine to Red Bulls. Let's start the movement. Thank you.
Interesting. I would say if you don't live in New Jersey, you're probably not a big New Jersey guy, but I can see where Jeremy's coming from as a New Jersey guy. New Jersey's closer to me than Miami, so I'd be semi okay with it. But literally the only thing is if he comes to the US, I just want to be able to go watch him play. That's the only thing I care about.
You just know it's going to be LAFC. I just know it. I just know it at this point.
I hate the LAFC kits though. That's my other issue. They're off.
Where's he going to go? Miami?
Probably not.
No, I don't
think he would go to Miami.
It's either going to be one of the LA clubs. It's either going to be Galaxy, who are mid, or LAFC.
Yeah,
I don't see him going.
I do feel like New York would be the other destination, whether the Red Bulls or City.
City, but
if you're not going to one of those two, like LA or Florida or Miami, I feel like New York is probably the third most likely. Is if you're an international player of that caliber, where would you consider going in the United States?
Yeah,
I feel like those are probably your top 3. No
disrespect, but like I just don't see Griezmann going to like a St. Louis, even though they're in first place. Like I just don't see him playing in Missouri and living in Missouri. Like he has family, he has multiple kids, and I think growing up in New Jersey, and I am very impartial, and it's a great lifestyle. You know, you're right by the city. You don't have to be in the city. It's easy access to New York City. It's a great place for kids to grow up. You're right there. It's a great place around Christmas time to really experience American culture around Christmas time is something, and to do it in what I think is the best city in the world is magical. So I really do think that the Red Bulls realistically are not going to make an effort to sign Antoine Griezmann. They should. This is what will solve the problems of this club: ticket sales, lack of just passion behind the front office. I think Griezmann turns a team like the Red Bulls, a team like New York City, a team like New England into that next caliber, right? Like it takes them just a little step. But realistically, he will be playing for LAFC in the next 2-3 years.
Personally, if I could pick a team that we haven't discussed, I think he would go to the state of Florida and play maybe a little center forward behind Duncan McGuire for Orlando.
Wow. Maybe.
maybe.
That's
Join
not.
Abi Salim down in Orlando.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. You know, it'd be wild if he just goes to Canada. That'd be wild. Anywhere, Toronto,
Vancouver.
Montreal, or Vancouver. He could go to Montreal because they're parlez-vous français. You know what I'm saying?
But I'm just,
Cabernet Sauvignon.
Hey, the future of Vancouver with Levante Johnson and Antoine Griezmann would be bright. Those are, I'm just saying. That's all. Hands are up. Hands are up. I'm just saying. All right, Jeremy, give me your fantasy Premier League player to start. The guy you can't miss in your lineup today.
Okay, so I'll be real quick. I'm looking at one matchup here. West Ham, Sheffield. Sheffield getting absolutely destroyed by Newcastle last week. I think that bad form will continue. I'm looking not just at goals, but assists as well, and just being a centerpiece in any kind of goal contributions galore. Going James Ward-Prowse. James Ward-Prowse. I know he's in your lineup personally. I think he's one of the best players. He's one of my favorite players in the Premier League. Mm-hmm. Look for a free kick opportunity. Look for any time, dishing the ball. He could even bag a goal or two. So my must-be player, James Ward-Prowse, number 7, West Ham United.
So here, I'm someone who typically is, rooting against Arsenal. This week, I'm looking at Arsenal as having my player to watch. They're going up against Bournemouth, a team that they should beat. One, whoever's in goal, whether Ramsdale or Raya, could be a must start because I think they'd probably put together a clean sheet. The other being with Saka potentially being out, especially if you want him to play in the Champions League game, they might play it safe and not play him because I feel like he's at the 50%, maybe 75% could play, not play type of thing. If he doesn't play, I'm starting Martin Odegaard or Jesus. I think either of those two, Odegaard in terms of just the way he pulls the strings, orchestrates that attack, and then Jesus is just if Saka's not getting kind of the brunt of the ball, we might see Jesus get a little more responsibility, I should say, in that attack. Those are two players to watch. I don't have either of them on my fantasy teams just because in the league I'm in, you can only make one transaction without paying extra points. But I think those 3, potentially 4, depending on which one Raya or Ramsdale plays, because we still don't. Arteta came out and said he's still loves Ramsdale because he was the one that helped bring him in despite all of the doubt that was around him today. But he hasn't played him in 2 big matches, so really don't know what he actually is going to do there in terms of goal. But whichever goalkeeper starts, I think is a must start in terms of getting a clean sheet, and then Odegaard or Jesus. Jeremy, any final comments on what I just said, or just, football, life in general?
To quote Ted Lasso, life is like riding a horse. If you're comfortable while doing it, you're probably doing it wrong. For the love of God, please, Man United, continue the good form. And again, please, Union Berlin, please find 3 points. Sammy, it's always a pleasure.
It is always a pleasure. And in honor of Jose Mourinho off to a tough start, I figured I'd bring up an old Jose Mourinho quote that I use in any situation where I just want to plead the fifth. I prefer really not to speak. If I speak, I'm in big trouble. In big trouble, and I don't want to be in trouble. Jose Mourinho.
Oh, Mel made me do it, Stormzy. That quote is in it, and it's a great song. And Jose Mourinho is in that music video, and that was a great surprise. Sorry.
Gotta love Jose. Gotta love.
It's just him like this.
Oh yeah, no, you gotta love Jose Mourinho.
I love Jose.
even when he's not, his team isn't doing well.
I am Jose Mourinho.
Exactly. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you on the other side of the weekend. Have a lovely weekend, and come on, you Spurs.